The Afternoon Drive, 98.5 CKWR. That is The Box and Ordinary People. And it is 3:18 here on the Afternoon Drive, and time for today's edition of Top Track. And joining me on the care phone, I have Stephen Trothan, aka Treephones from Waterloo. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, you have your music has evolved over the years. I did some listening, and did you study at Laurier? Where did you study music? I'm curious.
At the University of Waterloo, although I received some English degrees, and then music was more of a minor slash hobby of mine, I guess, passion project.
Right. And so in 2014, you did a project called Tunnel Divisions, which I thought was really neat. Do you want to
Hmm.
talk about this? This is very cool.
Yeah, sure. So I was doing that's when I was studying. I was doing a master's degree, and that's when I was working at the Critical Media Lab. So it's kind of like a media studies, sort of media art type project. And I was
Yes.
taking a class called City as Platform. So the task was just try to use the city as a platform for something to make some art. And so what I did was there's this really cool tunnel at the University of Waterloo. It's like this, there's these kind of like psychedelic swirls as you walk through it. And so
Yes.
what I did was I made basically a generative piece of music. So I set up these motion sensors, 5 of them, and I envisioned it as 4 measures of music. And so what it was doing was tracking people walking through the space, and it would time how long it took them to get from one sensor to the other. And so essentially people were like musical notes.
Yeah.
What would happen is it would play notes back and forth. There was like speakers at either end. And so it was really like a Brian Eno kind of inspired, like
No
generative thing
kidding.
where I was
Yeah.
translating traffic in a space to a generative piece of music. And yeah, if people go on the Bandcamp, there's like, we recorded it for 4 hours or so. So you can listen to 4 hours of nice piano, generative tunes to relax, I guess.
Yeah, and there's another project you did too called Mute Swan slash Trumpeter Swan, and this reminds me of Steve Reich meets Dan Lanois. So that's
That's the ultimate compliment. Yeah, Steve
yeah,
Reich is a big again with the whole generative thing. Or the thing I really like about Steve Reich is just taking a concept and trying to figure out how that becomes sound and stuff. So all his like clapping music and stuff. But yeah, that project was so that was an album and also a graphic novel. And so I was
yes,
interested in telling sort of a story across 2 mediums.
yes.
And the story was again interesting. It came out the same year as the tunnel division thing I just said, so it's very steeped in media studies, just like I think everything I do.
Yeah, and
Um,
then
so the idea was, just telling a story with sound, and I was really interested in trying to jam as many sounds as I could into a song, and doing some sampling, and it's kind of like a psychedelic swirl of an album, I think. But there's the graphic novel as well. I keep saying psychedelic swirl. I think that's a good way to describe my music in general.
yeah, it is because I met you a couple of years ago. Again, you were working on media as an I don't know, transportation as an art, I guess, because you were at the Critical Lab at 44 Gawkel, and you were filming people trying to act as trains. That was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting project. But your latest album is Pink Objects, and this is a series of vignettes about objects. Um, and they're pink. So, and you have evolved as a musician as well. You've added some sax and some vibraphone. So, how long did it take you to compose these songs? Because they're very interesting.
Yeah, it was a few years. So I record myself and I play most of the instruments except the ones you mentioned, the sax and the vibraphone. And so I kind of have the luxury of taking as long as I like, but also sometimes that means you take longer than if someone was expecting the music to come out. But so a few years for sure to put it together. And yeah, it's a concept album. I seem to work well with concepts, probably from listening to Pink Floyd a lot as a teenager. I just feel
Yeah.
like concept albums are a fun thing to explore, or maybe it's just a way to motivate like songwriting. But yeah, every song is named after an object. And it's for me, it kind of comes out of what we were just talking about, the media studies thing. But I was trying to return to first principles, like instead of just thinking about how technology affects us, just think about like what is the nature of an object, just even as a thing. And so there's songs like about a book of matches, and there's a
Yes.
song about a photograph and
A penny?
a boarding pass. You know, it's just kind of like what sort of events are revolving around this? What sort of life is this object bringing into existence? And that's where the color pink comes in too. It's
Right.
I was using that color to mean liveliness or like a life to it, because we think of objects as these inanimate things.
Yes.
And I was kind of playing with that idea that, no, I feel like they have a life to them. We form relationships with them. I mean, my music's very much me forming a relationship with all the gear I collect.
No
and then that
kidding.
becomes my sound, which is related to me. And it's kind of this feedback loop of the things we surround ourselves with and this sort of feedback. And so the other thing with it is because I didn't have the graphic novel element, I was trying to make the stories as clear as possible. So they're very narrative based.
Yes,
and
they are.
songs are like, you know, there's a beginning and a middle and an end. So I was kind of thinking of myself as like a short story sort of approach to songwriting, which I haven't really done as much, but I enjoyed the challenge of being as clear as possible. And
Well, the album
is about this. Yeah, go ahead.
the album is a lot of fun, and the map is the song we're going to play. So, if people want to find you, where's the best way to discover your music?
Yeah, sure. So the album comes out on May 7th. And first place, I guess, would be Bandcamp. You can take a look at, it's coming out on vinyl, so you could pre-order a vinyl. You could look at the art.
Pink
And then
vinyl,
just
too. Baby pink vinyl.
That's right. Yeah. So quite literally, I made a pink object, which is, the dad joke of that is not lost on me. But yeah, and then Instagram or Spotify, you can pre-save stuff. Just all the usual spots you'd find music these days.
Yes. Well, thanks, and congratulations on getting involved with Killbeat too, because they're a great music promotions company. And I just want to thank you so much for finding me, because this has been this has been a discovery, and I really like your work a lot. So thank you so much, Stephen, and all the best.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's awesome.
Here is Treephones, and today's top track. It's called A Map on the Afternoon Drive.
New York City, 9 hours to a show. I asked some kid with a smartphone to tell us where to go. Three songs in, it started to rain so hard we couldn't see. So we slowly put our heads down and gathered up our things. As you drove back, woke to the sound of the horn. Wearing out a box, standing in the road, unfazed by your scorn. You said he came out of nowhere. I said that's the first fox I'd ever seen.
CKWR. That is a map by Treephones, and that is from his upcoming album Pink Objects, and it is available on May the 7th. So for more information, treephones.bandcamp.com, and you can see all his work there. And you can actually get this album on baby pink vinyl. It's really cool. And he's also with Killbeat Music. So if you go to killbeat.com and look up Treephones, you'll see his videos. There's a really cool video for the map, actually, or a map, I should say. And also his upcoming song, Matches. So that is today's top track. And I just wanted to mention, too, that this was mixed by Calvin Hartwick, Dreamhouse Studios in Toronto. He also works with July Talk. And Phil Dimitro did the mastering at Lacquer Channel in Toronto. And they actually produce vinyl. And he's also worked with Marcy Playground, Emily Haynes of Metric, Our Lady Peace, Tara Lightfoot, and Whitehorse. So Treephones is in some good company. That is today's top track, and Top Track is heard every day at 3:20 right here on the afternoon.